بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala has placed our salvation, our protection. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala has given us our power in Al-Quran. Whoever reads it, whoever ponders over it, whoever holds it, whoever keeps it close to him, it has protected in the past. This is a divine protected book. And whoever will connect with it, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala has said, La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. One meaning is, no one must touch the Quran unless you're pure, because of which we make wuzu before we touch. Another meaning is, only that person will have a ta'alluq relationship with Quran, who himself is pure. La yamassuhu illa al-mutahharun. We are living in a time where things are very dark. Quran is light. When a person puts on a light, darkness naturally goes away from him. Over the last 2 years, a lot of changes have happened in the world. And in the next few years, we will see many more changes. Some of those changes have shocked the world, that where they never thought evil will rise. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once spoke. He sent a Sahabi radiallahu an after the conquest of Makkah Mukarramah. So there was one area between Yemen and Makkah Mukarramah. They had built their own house for their idol. They had called it, this is the Kaaba of Yemen. And as long as the Kaaba itself had idols, the people were not so bothered. You got an idol there, you got a big idol here. Dhul Khuwaisara. It's a very big idol. But now when Muslims had taken over, it was this group of people who were still stubborn. One last group. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam told his Sahaba, go and you will take this idol down. Huge it was. They had so much of love for the idol, that the Sahabi radiallahu an, when he came back, he said that how many lives we had to take. Meaning those people said, you will kill us first, but you will not touch our God. He said, how many lives we had to take until we removed that, and then we were able to bring it down. This is the end. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the hour will not come, meaning Qiyamah will not come, until the woman of that area, meaning the Arab woman, they will go with that idol in such a manner that their behind will shake by the idol. In the past, when people looked at the narration, the translation of the behind shaking was, like you get on an animal and as the animal moves, especially the camel, so as it moves, your behind also moves. But it was wanting to know, like, why woman? So it was thought woman will make the journey. Then the world saw the beginning of dancing, and fast dancing, mad dancing. Then it started with men, then it went into women. It was first European. You never thought Arabs will dance. You never thought Arabs will look more European than Europe. Those that had gone to France and gone to Europe, they lost it all. No one ever thought in the Arab land it will happen. When the Arab woman will start dancing and their behinds will touch that idol, he said, as long as that does not happen, Qiyamah will not come. Meaning the world will see at that time that even idol worship will come back. Even idol worship. And the Arab woman who on one side, if she just listens, she'll understand Quran like anything. When me and you, we have to look at Quran, learn the meaning, see the translation. For her, it's part of her life. But the hour will not come until those women will dance. They will move their behind. Their behinds will be touching that idol. They will be thrilled about it. What and what the world has still to see. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala made it that when dark times come, there will always be a group that will hold a light. And this unique nature trait of this ummah This was known as the Ummah of Da'wah. Kuntum khayra ummah, ukhrijat linnas. One is an Ummah of Da'wah, means that you got a job in this world to invite. But what was unique about this Ummah of Da'wah is what we're going to mention now in the Surah. It was a while ago that I had started a series of lessons from Quran. Now we have reached the 29th juz, very close to the half. The surah is known as Surah Nuh. Many a time in the Fajr Salah you will hear the surah. Nabi Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam was the first Rasul that came. A Nabi, he would be sent to Muslims. Muslims meaning those who worshipped Allah. As for a Rasul is sent to those who don't believe in Allah. When Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam was sent, Shaitan had made such an effort that from Adam alayhi salam, so much of change took place that when Nuh alayhi salam reached, there was not a single soul believing in Allah. Not a single. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam left this world 1400 plus years ago. Allah put such power in this ummah that as the days go and the attacks of the devil become stronger and stronger, but you will never find that I walked in the entire world and there was not one believer. Rather you will say whichever town I went to, I saw someone was there also. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala said, وَمَن يَرْتَدَّ مِنْكُمْ عَنْ دِينِهِ, that in this ummah the gift of Allah was, if one person becomes murtad, فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِ اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ, in lieu of that one person, Allah will bring another nation. For every one that they take away, Allah brings a nation. Go and see in the countries like England, France, Europe, you will see the Arab lost their deen. You will see every day the French and the European are accepting Islam. Every one and two that they take away, Allah brings from their own people. Nabi Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam, most likely at the age of 40, he was given nubuwah. From the age of 40 for 950 years he had to give dawah. 950 years saw generation after generation after generation. It was his miracle Allah gave him, that his life would continue, nasls, generations would pass. Before the person passed away, his wasiyah to his child was that as long as I lived, I made sure my family does not listen to this man. Oh my child, you don't listen to this man. It was a wasiyat in the generations. Where they could mock him, they mocked him. Some would even say, have you not become tired? You saw my grandfather, great-grandfather. You know our family are not going to listen to you. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنا أرسلنا نوحا إلى قومه. Indeed, we sent Nuh alayhi salam to his nation. And anzir qawmak, your job is to warn. Min qabli an ya'tiyahum adhabun alim, before the terrible punishment of Allah falls. What the surah is going to teach, why it was in our Quran, was it just an incident of a Nabi of the past? Or was it that Allah Tabarak Ta'ala was explaining to whoever will read Quran that there is no more a Nuh coming? But you yourself will see around you sometimes kufr and shirk spreading. When the Nabi would be sent when they were believers, and the Rasul would be sent where they were disbelievers. This ummah was blessed with both honors. That they were going to be da'is, callers to the believer. They would do the work of the Nabi. They would be callers to the disbeliever. They would do the work of the Rasul. When they would call, the first thing that would come in their mind is, but I don't know much. And then I don't think the person will listen. And then what if he becomes upset? So Surah Nuh was brought to say more than Nuh alayhi salam, you will never go through difficulty. You will never have to give da'wat for 950 years. And you will never see so much of stubbornness that generation after generation after generation will not look at you. You will never see so much of opposition that when you will walk to them, they'll put their finger in their ear. They will take their clothing, they'll cover their face. They say, I don't want to see you. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, He said, Ya Qawm, O my nation, I am a warner to you. I only ask you to worship Allah, fear Allah, obey me. يَغْفِرْ لَكُم مِّن ذُنُوبِكُمْ. He will be ready to forgive your every sin. وَيُؤَخِّرْكُمْ إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. When the time of your death will come, it's going to come. But you will not have to see calamities before that. But if you want to live in evil, in kufr, you must expect that sicknesses will come. Terrible sickness will come. Deadly sicknesses will come. You can accept the curse of Allah if it's raining upon you. You are going to see problems. He said, I have come for you with a message that you want the best of this world and the year after. He said, he called and he called and he called. After 950 years, Nuh alayhi salam made this dua. This dua was to show to the world that if I, Nuh, did not give up, then you as the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam cannot give up. And there was a difference between the call of Nuh alayhi salam and the call of this ummah. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, in the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, created on the finger, on the tongue, on the pen of whoever decides to be a da'i in this ummah, that he will definitely see some result of his da'wat. Nuh alayhi salam, after 950 years, 80 people believed in him. 950 years, 80 people. Allah was going to make in this ummah, a man would give da'wat for 1 year, and he would be able to say, on my hand, 80 people accepted Islam. 1 year. 1 month. Results would come where a man would never expect it. So much of ta'seer was put in the ummah. One person says that his father asked him, most likely it is one of the Arab lands, many years ago. His father had pushed him that you must become a doctor. So welcome, this is the unique waqiyah, because welcome, everyone is doctors. His father pushed him to become a doctor. And he said, I had no interest in studying this. But how it happened that I would just manage, every year just manage, and I finished. When I finished, I got a post in what was known as the military hospital. And in the military hospital, a lot of Europeans would come. He said, because I was local, I knew the language. They would get along very well with me. I would take them. I knew where to take them. I knew how to talk. I get a cheaper price for them. So I would get very close to them. And it was my father's habit that when the person's time would come to an end, then my father would throw a party for him, because we would get very close in those 3-4 years. Throw a party, I would always be told by my father, get him one gift, special gift. He said my father liked to keep artifacts, old. So I would always go to his place and I would look for something unique. He says one person came from England, the same thing, we became very close. The party was going to be held. He said that day when I was going out to get the different things as his gifts, my friend said to me, what are you going to get him? I said, I have to get him something that he will never forget us. So normally it's something unique what you don't find. He said, my friend said to me, either his friend or his brother, I can't remember exactly, that why don't you give him something regarding Islam? So he said, I felt shy, and I told him that, no, I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I don't want to push too much. So then he just ended there. He said, I went to the shops. As I was going past the shops, I saw this bookshop, so I entered the bookshop. And the thought came to me that you're giving so many gifts, why don't you just put one book inside? He said, I saw one book there, it was in English, it was called An Invitation, or What is Islam? Something like that. He said, so I took that also, I paid that 5 riyals. He said, when I made the parcel also, I made sure I push it in, in between everything. So that when he sees it, it's not like, hey, I gave you this. 5 riyals. So I gave him the gift, he went away. I got married, I had a child. He says, one day I got a letter. His name was Daifullah. Daifullah means the guest of Allah. That was his name. Daifullah. I got a letter one day, it was from Daifullah. So I knew that I'm the only one with that funny name, different name. So this person is writing that because of you, my life changed. And I am writing this to thank you. I am Daifullah. So he's thinking, he said, I know many people who came. I cannot remember one who had my name, I would have remembered. He said, and I look again at the letter and I'm thinking, he said, then I started shivering. When I realized it was that friend from England. Because as I read, he said, as I opened the gift, then I saw that book that you had sent me. He said, I read it, and I read it, and I read it so many times. He said, then I wanted to know more about Islam, but I was too shy to contact you. So he said, I looked at the book at the back, the publishers. I contacted them and I said, you got any other literature? And then they sent me. He said, I studied Islam. I studied Islam. He said, I am writing this just to thank you. Had it not been for that book of yours, I would never have found my path in the darkness. How much of asr? So the Daifullah says that more than Allah opened up my friend's eyes to the haqq, he says, my eyes on that day also opened up. That it only cost me 5 riyals. And even if I can't give dawah with my tongue, Allah has definitely given me the ability to give dawah with a book. He said, how many doctors went through me, and I was never ready to put that book in their parcel. It took one friend to say to me, why don't you just introduce him to Islam? He said, Allah opened my eye on that day. So much of ta'asir there is in dawah for this ummah. Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam gave dawah upon dawah upon dawah. This was the dawah of a Nabi. When a Nabi calls, his whole night is in ibadat. Whole night. Crying, crying, crying. Whole day in dawah, effort. But Allah tabarak ta'ala, Allah is Allah. That amount of result the Nabi was not going to see. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Allah showed me the scene. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I saw the people were walking. He said, I saw a Nabi of Allah and with him there was a few people. He said, I saw a Nabi of Allah, with him there were 2 people. He said, I saw a Nabi of Allah, with him there was no one. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, then I saw a huge group in front of me. I got so happy, I said, this is my ummah. Jibreel alayhi salam said, no, this is the nation of Musa alayhi salam. Then Jibreel alayhi salam said to me, turn. I looked. He said, I saw the entire horizon filled. He said, turn the other side. I turned the entire horizon. He said, turn the other side. Jibreel alayhi salam said, this is your ummah, this is your ummah, this is your ummah. Islam has come with such an effect through the blessings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that whoever will give da'wat, either himself he'll see the result immediately, or after a few years the person will come and say, you were the reason I changed my life. Whether it's da'wah to a believer or it's da'wah to a non-believer. Look at the world wherever tabligh went. It reached places where there was not one person to read kalima. Many of us would know Sheikh Yunus. He was known Sheikh Yunus from Tunis. He had visited South Africa many times. So perhaps it was around 2015 when he was in South Africa. In one of the lectures he had given in Benoni, few of the incidents he mentioned about his own life. He says he was in France with his uncle. His uncle had also come from a land where they read Salah 5 times a day. He said, but when people would reach France, it would take 2 or 3 days for them to lose everything. Everything. He says he remembered he went to a Hafiz of Quran. And he said, I heard you a Hafiz. The person said, I was a Hafiz. I was. He said, what happened? He said, in France there's no need for all this. He said, I forgot most of it. He said, I asked him, at least Surah Fatiha, you know. He said, the Hafiz looked at me and he said, I forgot Surah Fatiha. No bother. He said, this was France. He said, in France I was with my uncle. He was a man who never missed his Salah when he was in the land. He reached France and he never read Salah. Never missed, never read. He said, I would tell him, oh my uncle, let's read Salah. And he would say, oh my nephew, let's drink. And he would say to me that this drink we have is not haram. Khamar. Khamar is haram, made from grapes. This one is made from barley. So he said, you drink. He says, this was our. He said, I was the only one now. He says, at that time I heard that in the Markaz, there's a Markaz, and in the Markaz there's a little work taking place. So he said, I came to Paris. At that time, in Aligarh, what many of us would also have known him, Dr. Hamidullah, Rahimullah. He had graduated in Aligarh with very high marks. So the university itself said to him, we want to employ you. So for that, we are going to pay for your studies in the European country. You will go and study there and come back and you will serve at Aligarh. So he asked the elders of the Markaz and they said to him, you go to France. Because nothing is happening in France. Nothing. They said, we have hope like how France is making Muslims non-Muslim in 2 days. We have hope if France can turn the other way around. Then they will be the door to the entire Europe. So you go to France. And you make so much of effort in France that you become the Ansar for the Jamaats of the world. When they will reach France, there must be someone. So Dr. Hamidullah reached here and Sheikh Yunus says, I came to the masjid. He was there. So there were a few of us. I was one who knew Arabic. He never knew Arabic. He said he spoke. I was very amazed. He gave very few words. Amongst what he said is, Kuntum khayra ummah. That has Allah not mentioned in the Quran that you are the best of the nations. You have been taken out to invite. So I was very amazed by this. He said he spoke about Iman. I had never heard about Iman for so long. And after he spoke, he said, are you ready to join us for Gasht? So he said, I asked him, what's this Gasht? He said, you see in this flat not far from us, there's about 1,000 Arab boys. They are staying in this. 1,000. But from that 1,000 Arab boys, not a single one of them performs Salah. So why don't we just go and meet them? So I said, I'm ready. Sheikh Yunus said. He said, we came there, the guard, he saw someone with a beard coming, he stopped immediately. He said, we don't allow foreigners to come here. Meaning you don't come. And he said, this dog is very wild. So Sheikh Yunus was told by Dr. Hamidullah that our job is not to push anywhere. But the world is a free place. If in France they can dress how they want, they can dance and they can sing, they can scream how they want, so we can give the adhan. So he said, here's some grass here alone, no one can stop us performing Salah. He said, you give the adhan. He said, I was so shy. I said, what will people say if I give the adhan? He said, why are you shy? When they are not shy. So he said, I started giving the adhan. While giving the adhan, I saw windows opening. I thought people were going to start throwing stones. Like windows open. He said, as I'm sitting and performing my sunnats, I'm seeing people coming. He said, a huge group, about 40, 50 boys came. They said, we heard this when we were in our land. We had never heard adhan. He said, one Jamaat came. The guard was not happy, so the guard let the dog loose. He says, we never noticed it, other people told us. They saw the dog coming and it walked, it never ran. And it was wagging its tail as though the dog was saying that, I'm also so happy you all came. He said, the dog never attacked. He said, we saw the dog. He said, I never saw the dog. He said, after the salah, Dr. Hamidullah said, you an Arab, you speak. He said, I don't know what. He said, whatever you heard me now, you say it in Arabic to them. He said, I spoke. He said, that was the beginning where not a single person. He says, Allah created so much of ta'asir in this work of da'wat in France. In his own life, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala gave him the chance to see 3,000 masjids come up in France. 3,000 in his own life. He speaks of one incident. He says, one friend came to him and said, today I brought my one friend. He's very valuable. I hope you giving the bayan. He said, I am giving the bayan after Asr. He said, please make some special effort on him. So he said, I asked, like, what's so special? He said, my friend, for the last 17 years has not performed one salah. 17 years. He said, he is married to a Portuguese girl. Her name is Fatima. So he said, this amazed me, like, she's Portuguese, she's non-Muslim, how she got Fatima? So he says, no, in that area, when the Muslims were there once upon a time in one of those areas, there was a very famous woman known as Fatima. She did so much of good work that in that area of that Portugal, even the Christians, when they would name their daughters, one daughter would be Fatima. They just liked Fatima, that Fatima was. So he said his wife is Fatima, Portuguese. He is Muslim, but 17 years no salah. He's married to a Portuguese woman, Fatima, non-Muslim. He has 2 shops. In both of it is pork and liquor. And he said the 4th thing is Allah gave him about 4 children. His biggest child is Jamal. Jamal is an Arab name because he gave the name Jamal. He said already he changed it to Jami. So all his children are going and he is also gone. He said, I begged him at least one day come with me to the masjid. He said he came after so long. He said, you please say something. He says, so after the Asr I spoke, and as I was speaking, Sheikh Yunus says, I saw this person. He said, let's call him Zaid. He said, I saw Zaid crying. He said, it made me so happy. So when Tashkil was made, he said, Zaid stood up for 3 days. Zaid's friend himself jumped up like, he was so happy. He said, Zaid came back after 3 days, they took his car Guzari. He was only crying, only crying. He said, my life has changed. Then he went home, he came back after about 2 weeks, again he was sad. He said, I went home, I gave dawah to my wife. I said to her, I'm a Muslim. Either you become Muslim or we have to separate. So she said, separate. She said that. He said, I'm going to lose 4 children. She'll get custody. My whole house. So Sheikh Yunus said to him that, who told you like to give dawah like that? He said, let me speak to her. He said, it's too late. She's already packed. He said, no, phone her. Just say one man wants to meet you. One man. He said, I took some dates and now we went to his house. He said, in the beginning, Fatima was not happy at all to see us. He said, but I spoke to her. First, I just presented the dates. I said, I got this gift. She said, why you got a gift for me? He said, because you Fatima. So she said, what that got to do with anything? He said, Fatima is the name of the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, when she said that, she said, oh, is it like that? She said, as soon as she started speaking, like, she got a little happy. She said, then I praised her. He said, I spoke a lot of lies also on that day. I told her, your husband told me this about you, this about you, this about you. Her husband never told nothing. He said, I spoke so much. She was also like, he said, he said, can I speak to you? He said, after that it was 1 hour. I took out the chart, I showed her who is Muhammad, who is Jesus, who is Moses. He said, I had my chart with me. I put it in front. He said, when the chart was finished, she said, that give me some chance, I want to go upstairs to change, to bath. He said, I had never told her you have to take a bath to read the Shahadat. She just said, give me chance, I want to take a bath. So he said, I never spoke to her about a bath. And I never spoke to her about hijab, covering. But when she came downstairs after her bath, she was covered from head to toe. He said, I never spoke to her. What an asar Allah put in this ummah. Even to the non-Muslim. If they get deen, your work gets done, you can sleep after that. Because when they take it, they like a fire that doesn't stop after that. Cape Town, they looked for the one man who started the fire. Where is he? But after that, as the fire spreads, whether it's in Table Mountain or Parliament, when the fire spreads, you can't put it off. But they'll always blame the one who started the fire. In Islam, it's the one who starts the dawat. He just put that first flame. And thereafter, forest and forest starts burning. But when Allah is going to reward, every angel will be told, but don't forget who started the fire. Don't forget. May Allah make all of us, some way or the other, we can start a fire. Whether it's to a believer who's far from Allah, or whether it's a disbeliever. It doesn't have to be with the tongue. It can be with a book. It doesn't have to be with a book. It can be with character. So much of effect it will have. We will just jump from here to another incident, then we'll come back to Fatima. In 1992, most likely it was, a white couple was in Turkey. Later on they converted, one took the name, reverted Muhammad, and the wife took the name Noor. The reason why they accepted Islam, even that family doesn't know why they accepted. Meaning that family won't even know. But this Muhammad and Noor made so much of effort in Romania. On Muhammad's hand alone, when he mentioned his incident, over 1,000 people had accepted Islam. Muhammad's hand. So when they asked him, like, what brought you to Islam? He said, me and my wife were in Turkey. And one night I got a little late, so I went to one person, it was very cold. I said to him, I need to find this hotel. So he said the person looked at it, and for whatever reason, maybe he knew this hotel is very far, maybe he knew you will not get there early. He said, you know what, in this area that you are, there's nothing like us. But tonight you be my guest, and tomorrow in the morning, it's easier, it's not so cold, you find your way. He said, I tried 3-4 times to say to him, no, I need to go. But I'm not telling him the only reason I want to go is he had a beard. And I was so scared of these men with beards. So he's telling me, come home, and I'm saying, no, I have to go. He says, in the ending, we don't know why, but when we went, then when we just came, we got like so happy because there was a family there. We thought he was going to like slaughter us. There was a family, there was a grandfather or grandmother there was. So there was the wife, there was about 5 children, there was the granny. He said he gave us a very simple meal, and then he said that you all sleep here and we will sleep in the other room. He said they went away. He said in the morning we woke up. Then I looked around and I saw the house we're staying is very small. Meaning there's no other room. So I went outside and I realized that night they all slept outside. All of them. He said for me it was a freezing night of Turkey. So I asked him that why do you act so why did you do this? So this man said, you are a guest and I am a Muslim. Because I am a Muslim, I have been told, honor the guest. So he said, my wife started crying. And one reason is because we lived with the enmity for a believer. They had no problem with a Muslim who got no beard. That's why they were in Turkey. Their problem was the Muslim with the beard. Said, we hated you. So his wife started crying. He said, I asked the person that, what is this Islam? So the man said, I also don't know much. But if you buy a Quran and you buy a Hadith, you learn about Islam. So he said, I remember these 2 words, and as soon as I went, I looked for a bookshop and I asked Quran. I said Hadith, and I got something. He said, I started reading. He said, it was about 4 months later in Egypt which we took the Shahadat. He said, but it was on that day when that person said, you are my guest and I am a Muslim, that Islam entered my heart. He said, thereafter I went back home and I found how my family turned against me immediately. Muslim. He said, I remembered the man of Turkey. If his character could change me, my character was going to change my family. He said, I just acted nice with them and Allah made it, all of them changed. He says, thereafter 1,000 accepted Islam on his hands. When he mentioned this, he said, now my job is, he said, I have visited 112 countries already. 112 countries giving da'wah to Islam. When I read this incident, I'm thinking of the one man in Turkey. That man doesn't even know this Muhammad. But when he will find Allah, he will find with him books and books of hidayat. And he will ask, where did it come? Say, 112 countries benefited from you. You say, I never left my Turkey. He said, you lit the fire. Finished. This ummah has been given that power in their tongue, in their wealth, in their books, in their character, in their smile. You can be a scholar, you can be a businessman, you can be in school, you can be in university. How you will behave, how you will talk, how you will invite. You don't have to know a lot about Islam. You can just put a book in someone's hand, finished. And the one who Allah wants to get guidance, it will all come back to the one who lit the first flame. Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam, when he made his dua, or coming back to Fatima, when that Fatima came downstairs, she was already covered. She said, I want to read the Shahada. She read the Shahada. She started crying. The children were outside. They heard the father and mother crying. They came in. The child, the biggest child said, Mommy, what happened? The mother said, Islam has entered the house. This was her da'wat. Then Shaykh Yunus says that the mother said, before going, you must teach us how to perform salah. Pray. So he said, we went in the yard and the whole family prayed. The children, the father, the children, the mother. How you stand in the safs, he said, all of them stood. 17 years, not a single salah. One da'wat. If you say, whose da'wat was it? Normally we will say, Shaykh Yunus, his da'wat after Asr. What a bayan it was. The angel will say, no, it was the friend who brought him to the markaz. One friend. So even if you can't talk, so much of ta'asir in this ummah. Just put someone in your car. If your life doesn't change how high and his life changes, he might become the fire that never stops burning. You got it all. So much of ta'asir, so much of effect, Allah gave the people of this ummah. So that every one of this ummah can come on the day of Qiyamah, and behind him can be a nation. He will say, but me, I was never a scholar. He says, you don't have to be a scholar in this ummah. Kuntum khayra ummah. Because you are part of this ummah, you are the best of all nations. Ukhrijat linnas, you have been taken out for mankind. If you know little, there are those who know even less than your little. You are their guide. And perhaps in the ones that you guide will be one who will one day be the scholar of the nation. You could become, forget the alim, you the father of the ulama. Although you know nothing. Because you started it. In the wealth of this ummah, in their books, in their tongue, in their pen, whatever little they do is lot. Because this ummah Allah has made it, it just carries on, lighting. Previously I had mentioned one incident, I don't know if I mentioned it here. My brother had written in one of his kitabs regarding when someone passes away, then what do you do for the deceased? How do you help the one who passed away? So this was one incident that a lot of people like, because it had to do with the second marriage. I'm sure I mentioned it here also. Very quickly, but that end part is what's important. Very quickly, when the man was passing away, he told his son that, your mother, that's my one wife. But in Indonesia, I got another wife. So the son said, I never knew that. He said, that's what I'm telling you. That when I pass away, you will have to go and bring her here. She is also going to get part of the inheritance. Father passed away, he went, he found her. He brought, the judge looked at everything, he said, it is a proper nikah and she is entitled. She and your mother will share the share of the wife. So he says, this woman, we accepted her as our mother, father's wife, our stepmother. We gave her a good time. She stayed for a while with us, and then she said, I want to go back now. I took her back. And she went with a huge sum of money. He said, when I went to fetch her, I saw her living in that small place. But now she had gone back with so much. He says, years later, I told my brothers, it's only right we go and visit our mother. See how she is doing, if she needs anything. Few of us, we went over. He said, we came to Indonesia, we went, and I was amazed that when I came to visit her, I thought she would now change her house. She would make some renovation, she would buy a new place. But when I asked her, where are you staying? She said, same place you met me last time. She said, I came there, the same house. No change. I entered and I said, oh my mother, that what did you do with all that wealth my father left for you? So she took us outside and we went around the corner. And then I saw a huge building. She had put up a madrasa. She said, look at the name of the madrasa. She had named the madrasa after the father. She said, when so much of wealth your father left for me, when I came home I thought that what I'm going to do with this wealth? Now, my husband is dead. She said, am I really going to change my house? So many years I lived like this. Am I now needing to change? She said, then I thought that if I want to really do something to thank my husband, one of the best things is let's put up a madrasa. She said, I put this up. It started small. I never knew it's going to get so big. At that time, perhaps there was over 500 students studying. 500 students. Even if only one of those 500 becomes someone. But in this ummah, Allah makes it all 500 become someone. 500 become 5,000. 5,000 become 50,000. If someone says, who lit that flame? You will say, one auntie put some money down. One auntie. She'll never read so much Quran like all those. But whatever Quran is read will be hers. Whatever Quran is read. This ummah Allah has given in wealth, in your tongue, in your pen. Wherever you can grab the opportunity, grab it. When Nuh alayhi salam never let go of the chance, 950 years, after every generation, the thought went in his mind, maybe the next generation will change. And with that hope, he went into the next generation. Every person you see, look at him as this is my hope to be from the people of Jannatul Firdaus. If I can just make this one person. When the time comes to give charity, whether it is charity going to Afghanistan, the present moment, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, after they conquering and defeating what the world would call superpower, and the people of Afghanistan made an announcement. Normally in the news you'll always see, they say the people are dying. So in Afghanistan, by the fadl of Allah, they lived for years without food, while bombs were falling from above. And they never died. So now they were out food, but there's no bombs falling. If they never died when bombs were falling, they're not going to die now without bombs also. There are people who have lived without fridges for years, they can live for another good couple of years. There are people who ate from the grass, they can eat from the grass. But when ulama visited Afghanistan, one thing they made very clear, that after so many years of war, the entire country is crying for madrasas. They said the youngsters of this country, when America left, 5 million of Afghanistanis, they left them as drug addicts. 5 million. So for that 5 million, they opened up all the jails in Afghanistan, or in the capitals, were made now as drug rehab centers. 5 million. In those 5 million, they are professors, they are doctors, they are lawyers. They fed them drugs to destroy their whole country. He said 40 years plus war. 20 years was just America, and then before that. He said no maktabs, no madrasas. He said this country is screaming for that. Whoever is now taking money into that country, they're putting up madrasas. They said every youngster in this country is a born fighter, born mujahid. But every youngster doesn't know how to read Quran. Every youngster doesn't know Islam. We know sometimes of Islam even more than that boy. He said to die for Allah, that's their nature. To die for their own pride also is their nature. They're not like me and you. That's why COVID, whatever it was, whether it's real or no, not real, but we know one thing, that COVID never reached Afghanistan. Mass never reached Afghanistan and COVID never reached. One reason is COVID came to people who were scared to die. People in Afghanistan were never scared to die. People who visited, one person he said, I saw the day where I went outside and that whole group were coming. They said, I asked him, where are you all coming from? He said, no, qisas took place. Qisas. This is not now, this was many years ago. Qisas means someone was killed. Why he was killed? Because he killed somebody else. So the person asked, like, what happened? He said, you see, this boy killed his friend. So now the father, he has the right. Father is the main wali. He said, there where the boy now, the friend was going to be killed now. You kill your friend. At the time of qisas, if the father now says, I make you maaf, I forgive you, then the qisas falls. So the father said to this boy, that I don't want your father and your mother's heart to bleed. Like how you made my heart bleed. So all I want you to do is one time just say to me, uncle, I'm sorry what I did. That's all. And I'll forgive you. So easy. Me and you will jump to say 100 sorries, please. The Afghanistan, this boy said, uncle, if I really thought I was wrong when I was killing your son, I would never have killed him. I was right in killing him. He deserved it. So I'm not going to say, sorry, kill me. And he put his head up. Will you ever see someone like that? When that nation had to give their lives for Allah, it wasn't so hard because before that they were giving their lives for themselves also. For them to die was nothing. And then when the war started, how they gave their lives for Islam. They brought down what the world called a superpower. Now they have made an appeal, and it's a very unique appeal. Amongst the appeals that they even made was that from the Arab lands a day will come where money will come to Afghanistan. But it will take a while. They said, our one hope is in the wealth of the people of South Africa. Now when you think of your South Africa rand, it's never ever as strong as the dollar and the pound. If you think of Palestine, Al-Aqsa, there was a time that no one was visiting Al-Aqsa. No one. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala is a favor to the people of South Africa. When Jamaat started going to Aqsa, it was South Africa that had taken Aqsa. Every Ramzan from South Africa people were going. Later on, other countries started. Now Turkey has taken, England has taken, so many other countries. But when the Imam of Al-Aqsa came one time to South Africa, I remember I was there in one program. He said, we the people of Al-Aqsa will never forget you, O people of South Africa. When there was no one with us, you people would come. This is another time. Allah has put so much of barakah in the wealth of people. The wealth of the Muslims of this country. It got nothing to do with the strength of the currency. It is the time to put money down. Whether it is in Syria, whether it is Afghanistan, whether it is Jordan, me and you might say there's so much refuges. Why must so much places? And when you got too many places to give money, me and you normally give money nowhere. But we know that a change is coming very fast in the world. As we say, we are moving to the end. When we move to the end, the day will come when the Mahdi will stand. When the Mahdi will stand, his armies will come running to him. Amongst those armies will be mujahideen from the lands of Syria. Many of those mujahids, perhaps in their stomach, in their flesh, could be meat that was created because of the wealth of a South African. Because when an organization was sending for Ramadan some hamper, the man said, I have to give my zakat, I have to give lillah, let me just push little here. But not just to get away that wealth, but with this year, Allah, you put so much of effect in this Islam. I just want to light that fire. Allow my money to be used to create the next flag bearer of Islam. Perhaps someone from Syria will take your food and he will become in the army of the Mahdi. Perhaps someone from Afghanistan, someone from the Arab land. We in South Africa have not seen what is called refugee situations. We have not seen people have to live under the desert. We have not seen living in a tent. We have not seen that there's a woman with her children. She knows her husband will never ever come back. We haven't seen that, but we hear about it. Those are the people who tomorrow are going to be lifting up the flags of Islam. So if we can't lift up the flag because our hand is too weak, then if you can't be Sheikh Yunus, then at least be the one who brought the boy to Sheikh Yunus. Some effort we make, whether it's with our wealth, with our tongue, with a book, with a smile, with character, with just hosting someone in the house, and just saying, I had to keep you, I'm a Muslim, finish. Something, a poor person comes, Hazrat Moulana Yunus Patel Sahab, Rahimullah, speaks. He says when his father-in-law, Marhum Rahimullah, went for Hajj, he said to him that you will you run the business? He said, me as an alim, what does an alim know of business? So he showed me how to do it. He said, I'll do it for you, no problem. But he said, different from all the other businesses, when Zuhr Salah time would come, I would stop. At that time, the other businesses would not stop. He said, I would stop. He said, some businesses, when my father-in-law came back, he says, the people even said to him that I feel you sorry. That you came back from Hajj, but I don't think good, because the shop was hardly open. He says, but when his father-in-law went through the sales, he found that he had made 30% more profit than what he would normally make. So then he said, one of the things is, it was his nature. When he would see someone in the shop, who's feeling it hard, like looking and saying, hey, how much, meaning, I don't think I got so much. So then he would tell the person, okay, how much you got? The person said 10 rand. He said, that time 10 rand was lot. But the items were 12 rand. He said, but in his heart it would go that, when the man is telling me I only got 10 rand, it means he got nothing else. So then I would say, it's worth 12 rand, but never mind, you take it and even your 10 rand you keep it. This was his nature. He says, everyone can't do this here. He says, that person would stand up from there and go bring another 10 people to the shop. That person. He said, that shop was full of customers. That little I was giving. He says, you can't calculate how we made a profit. But he said, a Muslim's business is different from a non-Muslim's business. Your purpose of business, your purpose of being a accountant, a doctor, a lawyer. Your purpose is not what the normal doctor and lawyer and accountant is. As soon as he gets his job, the first thing is, they will come to him and say, I will help you in your finance. Oh, last year you were only earning 10,000. Next year you're going to start with 45,000. What you going to do with that money? Person's eyes open. Say, what must I do? The advisor will tell you what every other non-Muslim was told to do. That now you will invest here, you will invest here, you will invest here, so that you can put up your house and your second house and you can buy your one car and second car. But me and you, we are not like the normal doctor, lawyer, accountant, businessman. We in everything, we are a Muslim da'i to Islam. I am an inviter. I am the nur of the era. In my smile, I can make a person Muslim. In my charity, I can make him Muslim. In my shop, I will keep a few books. Who is Muhammad? So the next time that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's name is taken in a bad manner by any person in Europe, then when that customer comes in my shop and he will see there, who is Muhammad? He himself will ask me, I always wanted to know who is this Muhammad? I will give it to him. I will not have explained to him that, do you know in the Bible the word Muhammad is there? Because if he asks me where, I don't know myself. But I will buy those books which will be what is Islam, it will be mentioned there. He will read it. He will read it. Sheikh Yunus of Tunis, he says, let me tell you one incident. I went to a man who was 80 years old, priest. He said, the priest gave me the keys to the masjid. He said, you are a man. The priest had made a masjid. Priest had made it. He said, I gave it to some Muslims. They're always fighting. I took away the keys. You look after it. He said, I told the priest, thank you so much. Like, you always look after the Muslims, but I want to speak to you. He said, I spoke to the priest. The priest asked one question, because I spoke to him and I said, after every Nabi that passed, the people changed the book. So the priest asked one question that, okay, how can you prove to me that your book never changed? So he says, you see this Quran, you know how many Huffaz memorized, how many boys have memorized this Quran? He said that. He just said that and the priest said, yeah, I know. I actually read about it. We studied it. That in the entire world, there's not a book which has more people who have memorized than Al-Quran. Priest knew it. It just needed for someone to tell the priest what he already knew. He said the priest went, he took his bath, he came at the age of 80 years old, the priest read the kalima. 80. He said the priest lived till about 89, 90 years old. He said from the age of 80 to 90, the priest would take the jamaats to all the Muslims. He knew they all were. Because as they would come, he was the one looking after them. He said the priest would walk 2.5, 3 kilometers. They would say to him, can't we get a taxi for you? He would say, 80 years of my life was wasted in the service of the devil. Will you allow 1-2 years of my life to be used in the service of Rahman? He said, I cannot ride in the taxi. I will walk. So much. One word, one meeting, and you can change the world. Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam said, Allah, how I call them. But whenever I call them, they only run away. Whenever I invited them so that you can forgive them, جَعَلُوا أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ. They place their fingers in their ears. They cover their faces with their clothing. وَأَصَرُّوا, how stubborn they are. وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا, how proud they are. ثُمَّ إِنِّي دَعَوْتُهُمْ جِهَارًا. That was when I would go to them one-on-one. Then I would sometimes give a da'wat. When many were in front, they would mock. Then I would go loudly. Sometimes I would go quietly, one-to-one. I would say to them, why don't you just ask Allah to forgive you? Forget your year after. In this world you will get rains. Allah will bless you with wealth. He will bless you with children. Allah will bless you with gardens. He will bless you with rivers. He says, what is wrong with you that you cannot understand the greatness of Allah? This is da'wat. This da'wat of Nuh alayhi salam sounds so simple. So simple. This was the da'wat of a Nabi mentioned in Quran to say to me and you. I'm going to repeat this da'wat now. Me and you have to think, do you have to be a alim? to give this da'wat. His da'wat to the people would be that turn back to your Creator. He is a most forgiving Creator. Even the Christians love to hear that. Only they say Jesus is most kind. Say, turn back to the Lord. He is a most forgiving Lord. In this world, the one who will call, He will send upon them the rains. He will bless them with wealth and children. He will give them gardens and He will give them rivers. What is wrong with you? You cannot understand the honor of your Lord. Now the da'wat starts. وَقَدْ خَلَقَكُمْ أَتْوَارًا. Did He not create you in stages? I can say this to a non-Muslim, you can say it. When Sheikh Yunus had to give his first bayan to those Arabs, 40 of them, he said, I don't know what bayan to give. Dr. Hamidullah said, you an Arab, you know little Quran. Whatever you heard me saying, say it in Arabic. He never had to say much. He just read those verses of Quran which speaks about how Allah made the child. We created you from sperm, and then we put on your meat, your bones, and then we made you so beautiful. We don't know Arabic, but we know English. Nuh alayhi salam's da'wat is our syllabus. He said, Allah created you in stages. We can also say so much. I can say to a non-Muslim, do you know how the Lord created you? Did you ever think and thank Him for how He created us in stages? And then once we say, you know, the Lord mentioned it in Al-Quran. And then once you start translating, that non-Muslim will just look stunned. While you were in the womb of the mother, stage upon stage, how we made you, we took you from that sperm, and then we added your bones, and we covered it with meat, and then we made you ثُمَّ سَوَّاكَ رَجُلًا. What a wonderful man we made you stand. He said, Allah created you in stages. Alam taro, have you not seen? كَيْفَ خَلَقَ اللَّهِ سَبْعَ samawat. How Allah created the 7 skies in layers. وَجَعَلَ الْقَمَرَ فِيهِنَّ نُورًا. How He placed the moon, which is what a light. وَجَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ سِرَاجًا. And how He made the sun. وَجَعَلَ وَاللَّهُ أَنْبَتَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ نَبَاتًا ثُمَّ يُعِيدُكُمْ فِيهَا وَيُخْرِجُكُمْ إِخْرَاجًا. And then He said, and Allah is the one who took you out from the earth. Say this to a non-Muslim. That do you know that the Lord was the one that took us out from the earth? Because that sperm of my and your father was from that earth. In that sand was what we are made. ثُمَّ يُعِيدُكُمْ. And that Allah is going to put us back in the earth. The non-Muslim even knows that. That word death makes everyone scared. وَيُخْرِجُكُمْ إِخْرَاجًا. Then say to the non-Muslim, then do you know what happens after that? That again that Lord is going to make us stand. Because He doesn't know the journey, He might listen. If He doesn't listen, He will go away and He will be one of the people of the qawm of Nuh. Stubborn. But Nuh alayhi salam never stopped. He gave the da'wat. He says, Allah is the one who made the earth for you like a carpet, so you can walk on it so easily. And then Nuh alayhi salam said, Allah, I called them for 950 years. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala revealed to him that after this year, no one is going to believe. Then Nuh alayhi salam lifted up his hand. He said, Allah, if it's like that, then now it is time to take them all away. But what message Nabi Nuh alayhi salam left for me and you? He only closed his chapter after 950 years of da'wat. When Allah revealed to him that now not a single person is going to believe on what you say. Then he said, Allah, there's no need now for any of these to remain on the surface of the earth. Because all that they will do, وَلَا يَلِدُ إِلَّا فَاجِرًا كَفَّارًا. They will just give birth to further kuffar. Wipe them out. He gave a message on the word to us that 950 years we don't have to give da'wat. And our nation is definitely not as stubborn as his nation. And we are not only going to end up with 80 people in the ending changing their lives on our efforts. There will be millions, directly or indirectly. Allah has put this asr. This is not for the alim. This is not for the muballigh. This is not for the da'i. This is not for who you can call he's a tablighi. This honor, Allah has put it in everyone's hand. It is for the doctor, it is for the lawyer, it is for the accountant, it is for the businessman, it is for the mechanic, it is for the pilot, it is for every and anyone. It's for the young, it's for the old, it's for the girl, it's for the auntie. And it's not a burden to give da'wah, but rather it's an honor. Allah wants every one of this ummah to stand tomorrow as a leader of a nation. As a leader of a nation. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, through the barakah of the surah, Allama Ibn Sirin Rahimullah said, the man who sees himself in a dream reading Surah Nuh, the one who sees himself in a dream reading Surah Nuh, he must understand that Allah is going to open up his road to become a great da'i of Islam. So even if you don't see in a dream yourself reading Surah Nuh, Fajr time, Lord, people are in the dreams as it is. And the Imam Sahib is reading Surah Nur. This surah came in Quran to remind me and you that you are the Nuh of this ummah. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make us all. What a Nabi, how he called, how he carried on. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala let us wake up to this responsibility. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala honor us with this responsibility. And may Allah Tabarak Ta'ala in our own life, in front of us, very quickly let us see the fruits of this da'wah. Just to end on that Fatima, I forgot the last part of the incident. After the salah, this Fatima then said to Sheikh Yunus, I want you to look in my house. And whatever Islam doesn't like, you tell me it must come out immediately. She said that. So he went in the house and he made some changes. Then the husband said to Fatima that, I got 2 shops. We sell liquor and we sell pork, that has to close. So you make dua now, tahajjud time, that Allah opens up my sustenance. So Fatima, Sheikh Yunus said Fatima was talking now. She never go study as a alima. Fatima looked at her husband and she said, you want me to waste my valuable du'as of tahajjud asking for dunya? She said, this world will come to everyone. I will never waste my du'as asking for small things. I'm asking for big things. He said, she was talking like she's the Rabia Basriya of the era. He said, the time came after that Fatima one day phoned him. She said, I'm only telling you because you changed our life. She said, for me and my husband, the most enjoyable part of the day is at night when our Creator wakes us up. She says, we find an ecstasy in calling to Allah when everyone else is fast asleep. She said, I never in my life used to feel this enjoyment. The enjoyment that I get at the time of tahajjud. How far they can go. But someone has to make that flame. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make us that we can light that flame. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.